You would be amazed at what can happen on your front yard. I never had any interest of starting a bike shop, but that was before I met Rajay Wilson. He was an active participant in the community gardens sponsored by the South Baton Rouge Garden Alliance, founders Margie Green and Stephanie Elwood. Rajay had problems with his bike, so as a response, Stephanie called me and asked me if I could help him fix it. He lived in my neighborhood, so I told him just to come down the street to my front yard and I'd help him fix it. So I remember sitting on the stoop of my old rent house, waiting for Rajay to show up, and I heard a sound that can only be described as a wagon being dragged with no wheels. And here came Rajay on a bike with no tires, no inner tubes, and spokes pointing in every wrong direction. And he came and said, "Can you help me fix it?" And I said, "No. No way. It's gone. It's over." But my roommate from college had left me an old bike. And I said, like any good Cajun, I thought to myself, if I could teach this kid to fix this bike, and if he can do all the work himself, well, then he earned it. And so we got to work. And we did fix that bike. And after we fixed it, I sent this kid on his way, feeling pretty good about myself. And I thought it was over. But Rajay wasn't the last. In the summer of 2010, approximately 10 to 15 kids visited my front yard regularly. They wanted to work on bikes, they wanted to ride their bikes, they wanted to learn mechanics, and most importantly, they wanted a place they felt safe. And so, community members began to donate bikes to my front yard, and people began coming in droves. I didn't expect everyone to laugh, but yeah, it's pretty funny. So, we got a lot of attention from a lot of different people. It wouldn't be surprising to you that Baton Rouge has a lot of issues. I began to feel like this was a destined appointment somehow. That all the racial, social, and economic barriers that create gaps in our community were starting to be bridged with bicycles. That this was a bridge between us. We both shared the joy of riding free in the summer air, going places that were restricted to traffic and having that liberty. Everything seemed really simple, but then got really complicated. Some of our kids have been involved in theft in the area, and LSU police began to pay us a few visits. So we had to prove to them that our donated goods were not stolen, and that the kids weren't bringing stolen goods, and that was the real hard part. But we did prove that. Our landlord, unfortunately, began to see how many kids were showing up, and he became really concerned at the liability of all these kids working with tools on his front yard. So after only 1 year of this whole project getting started, we stopped. We still fixed the bikes for the kids on the side, and we still went on rides together, but there was no work. There was no learning. We started to reach out to the community. We started to reach out to the city, and surprise, nobody really wanted to help us because it was a kind of a crazy idea. But the same landlord who stopped all that came back to me in a few months after we were being faithful, we were steadfast, and we were doing it by the book. And he said, "You know, I have a warehouse, and if you get your insurance, let's make a deal." Surprisingly, the same guy who stopped us gave us a warehouse. Not much of a warehouse, but still, it was better than the front yard. So the kids and myself started what came to be known as Front Yard Bike Shop. We got aprons, so we're now official. So Front Yard Bikes is a place where kids can come learn mechanics, work with tools, get the experience they need, ride places, and most importantly, have that freedom that we experience in every summer. We still need a lot of help. We're located at 974 Roosevelt Street in South Baton Rouge, and our building still doesn't have electricity. We still have a bunch of holes in the tin roof, but we couldn't ask for anything more with rent as low as $300 a month, which is very cheap compared to who we talk to. So, continuing, the best thing about all this that started to really kind of spiral our movement is that we had a place where our kids finally had this opportunity to go on with this experiment and continue to learn and grow with us. And whenever we first started, we had kids showing up at the shop, so many, that they would say, "Hey, I hear you're the guy who gives away free bikes. I'm here to get one." And I said, "No, sir, no. We don't have free bikes. It's going to cost you blood and sweat." And they never, ever turn away. They always stay around. Sometimes the kids come walking. Sometimes they come dragging the remains of an old bike behind them. But the joy that I get to receive is seeing them ride that bike off into the sunset at the end of the day. The best part about all this is that we started to get a lot of attention. The Advocate, WBRZ News, The Reveille all started covering stories on front yard bikes. And we even got attention from the Baton Rouge Metro Council for our services. And they gave us awards to myself, Rajay, the first one ever to come, his brother Austin, who was a true mechanic, and his sister Rashay, his twin sister. All got awards and recognition for our community service. Along with that, I had the joy of continuing to work over our 501c3 nonprofit status and getting to work on our Oxby permit to continue to legitimize what we're doing with our kids. My favorite part about all of this, seeing the kids get awards, seeing them get recognition, was that at the end of the day, their picture in the front paper, appearing on the 9 o'clock news, we knew all this. We weren't surprised. The first day we met these kids, we knew they were special. We knew they were unique. We didn't start doing this because we think, oh man, look at these underprivileged youths, look at all their issues. We didn't really think that we were doing something and we got a feel-good experience. Maybe the first bike I thought that. But what I started to learn is that these kids are the future of Baton Rouge. And Baton Rouge is lucky to have them. That they're not the liability, but they're the future of the city. And they're overlooked. And we're missing them. And they're on the streets doing who knows what all the time. But the kids at our shop are building bikes in droves and doing things that I didn't think kids could do. So, we've had the honor and privilege of doing that with our kids. And my wife, Kim LaFont, who's really the heart of everything that we do, taught me this. She said, it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes compassion to raise tomorrow's leaders. So, now my favorite part. You've met our kids, you've met me. Where do you fit in this? That's the big idea. Where are you going to be involved? And the question that we have to ask ourselves is, with everything that we're doing, you can come on by and see us anytime. We're at 974 Roosevelt Street. There's no secret. We have a big, bright-colored building with a bunch of people and kids working on bikes. Come visit us. Come see us. Come hang out with us. We're right off campus. And, we don't need anything. Just come talk. Come show our kids, hey, look at these academians. Look what they're doing. Hey, learn a lesson from them. They're right next door. They're your neighbors. And the real big part of the story is that in your neighborhood, you are a valuable asset right where you are, just for being who you are. In fact, you've been placed in the community that you're in to make a difference in that community. Because if you think about it, if building a bike can touch so many different people's hearts, then really isn't every act of kindness truly spectacular? Thank you.